Hello, 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 hello. Sometimes I gotta think about maybe waiting like a minute or something before I start. I'm not sure exactly when the notifications go out. What's up, Cold Steel? How you doing, Richie? Something must have gone on over there, man, for people to be over here already. So what's going on with you today? Haven't seen you in a little bit, man. I'm glad to see you, man. Is AJ around too, or I always forget if it's like really late there or really early there right now. I'm thinking that it's very, very late there. What's going on, Shannon? How you doing? Glad you're here. I was just gonna wait to say hi to people first, and then I'll have you click the link and we'll get started. See who shows up. I didn't. I was up like in time to take care of everything, eat, and take care of myself and all that. But I didn't send out some of the messages I normally would have, like prior to the show, to like see if like certain people were up or feeling well. Or it sounds good. Oh yeah, well, yes, I did get sleep. Not a big chunk, but like uh yeah, like enough sleep, like, where I feel good. Oh, he was over at Kylie's earlier. Oh, okay, cool, man. That's awesome, man. When you guys get together, it could be a little wild, though. You're more quiet though than he is. You're more calculating. He can't stuff to push. He probably has comments loaded. Should I push this button? Like, no, you shouldn't push that button. I'm gonna push it. But I'm always glad to see you, man. Hey, Deb, how you doing? Sleepyhead. I didn't see you this morning. Oh man, I am just like, I'm grateful, man. To be honest, like, I'm grateful. I'm a little like there's a couple things that have me weirded out, A couple things have me a little confused, scratching my head, right? A couple things I expected in life, right? The world is wacky. There's no getting around that. I mean, I don't even know if I could have even with the Bible could have predicted all this wackiness, right? And I know. Well, I was gonna message you after my appointment at 11, right? And so I went to sleep then, and then I woke up, did a couple things. I forget what else I did. I think I did some research too. I don't know what I did, to be honest. I have no idea. And then I probably answered some emails or whatever, got back to everybody. And then I didn't really even pop into that many places, man, to say hi to nobody or anything really. I did say hi to Sasquatch, like for like 5 or 10 minutes, which I wish I could have stayed there longer. And um, I left a couple messages with some people, but it's like, man, like nowadays it's hard to keep up. It really is. Like I used to finish it all right at the time of the next show, but now get it. Someone does about stuff now. Sometimes I wouldn't even remember that I had to do it in the first place. But not that it's important. It's just my brain can only hold so much stuff. Anyway, go ahead and click the link, Shannon, if you want, and we can get started, I guess. Now I'm gonna guess, right? Okay, so we talked about this, right? It was like situation you were having at work, or a situation you had to work with somebody that was being sort of passive, and um, it's good to talk about what's going on, right? And also along with other people. And I think that this is something good that we all need to like, you know, take a look at because um it's important because like there are situations where we get into these heated things or we're getting trolled or we're getting like gaslighted, right? And it's really better not to right, right. Yeah, go ahead and click the link if you want. And then right. And then so it's good to have like restraint, like it's good to have like all this stuff, right? And because then the least amount that you do to fix or maybe even re-damage the situation, right? The less you'll have to, I mean, the less you'll have to fix later, right? And so there's a lot of scripture that tells us to hold our tongues, right? Well, I'm going to go ahead and click on Shannon. She can probably explain it way better than me, although I do have the literary communication skills to describe what is going on. Welcome to the show, Shannon. How are you doing today?
Hi, brother. I'm good.
Is that what we're talking about today, or am I just goofy?
Well,
Yeah, I think
are
so.
you have kind of like are you talking about the connection?
Yeah, what are we? No. What are we? Did I have that right? What we're talking about?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
okay.
definitely something that's been on my heart, and if we go out into left field, that's okay too. But
Yeah,
that was the one that I texted you about, and it's just, oh, brother. Yeah, and your show was coming up at that time, and it was so nice to just be able to listen and kind of have that fellowship. I think was it yesterday or the day before?
it was 2 days ago, to be honest. I think.
Oh my gosh.
And see, like, I think, right, just initially, right, just taking a break from it, right, like, just that
Yes.
alone can, like, because have you ever had these moments, right, where you get in, like, an argument or you get in, like, a situation, right? We don't even have to call it an argument, right? But you're so emotional at the time that you, like, afterwards, you're like, oh, this was the perfect thing I could have said, and
Yep.
I could have ended everything right there. It would have like that would have been the ultimate victory, right? But
Yeah.
we just weren't calm in the moment enough to think of that,
Yep.
And sometimes we replay it in our heads or wish we could redo it, even if it meant being even more aggressive and even or whatever, because our it's like our thoughts are kind of like when you take
Well, we're
like a
not ready for it sometimes.
yeah
Our knee jerk reaction sometimes can make a fool out of us, and we have to be careful what we say back because hate begets hate, and
yeah
we don't want to just come off hateful as somebody else, or whatever the situation is. And
yeah.
it's something happened today too.
Oh,
Something happened
again.
today. Oh
Mm.
God, it was just so. I had taken the day off with my husband, and one of the things we love to do is go to the bookstore. There's a used bookstore, right? And
Yeah.
even if we don't buy anything, it's just fun to just stand around, look at the different titles, and it's a pretty lax establishment. Reno is a pretty conservative town, but you still have, masks here and there. But we don't wear masks because, I mean, first of all, I still need as much oxygen as I can get.
Yeah.
And we're not sick, and we were in there, and there was other people that were not wearing masks, and we were in line, and I was super elated. I was super excited because my husband had ordered a book for me and it had arrived. And all
Oh
I could do
wow.
was look through it. And when you get that sensational feeling like you're excited because something new just arrived, and we signed for it, and as we are walking away, a woman behind us says, "Thanks for wearing your mask." And
Ugh,
my husband and I both stopped and turned around, and I just started laughing like, is she for real?
ugh.
Like, what's the point of those words? Because even
Right,
if she was trying to
exactly.
convince us that we were wrong, how would that have influenced us in any way? You
I
know?
think that there's certain people, right, that okay, there's two okay. So there's people that have been pushed around their whole lives, right? But there's two
Yeah.
sections of those people. One section is overcomers, right? And one section is professional victims, right?
Yeah.
And so like we've been both, right? Or either or through our lives, right? Well,
Yeah.
what happens is, right, is especially when you get these really super liberal, really, like super accepting, super tolerant type people, right? As soon as they feel like they're on a team, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm the masked people, you're the non-masked people, right? They feel emboldened to open their mouth in your business. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Whereas
Oh my God,
before,
that's
you would
exactly right.
never, they would just have a snooty look on their face. They would be that person you're like, oh, that's a little weirdo over there, you know? But
And that
these
was
are
exactly
people,
the tone she had. It was very snooty and very mean. And
yeah.
I don't get hurt. I just it's just like, I there's so many the old me, there's so many things that the old me would have done to pick her apart. First of all, I remember looking over at her 2 minutes before and seeing her with her mask down off of her nose. It's like, well, if you don't even know how to wear the mask properly, why are you being the mask police right now? you know
Right,
and,
right,
but
right,
what good would that have served if I had said that? you know
right. Yeah,
and
I know it,
and
man.
there's and I came home, and it's funny because I had just written this verse in Proverbs 21:23. Whoever keeps his mouth and his tongue keeps himself out of trouble. And I like this establishment. We go there every week if we can. And I don't. The last thing I want to do is go there and create an argument in the middle of the store, and then my husband and I can never go back there again. What would that have accomplished? And
Right. Well, I mean, I think what people don't realize, right, is that even though it would have felt good to say something back to her, right? And
yes,
and not only that, but it was probably embarrassing for her to call you out like that, right? Like on
yeah,
top of that, right? It's like okay, I could say something back, maybe save a little face, maybe kind of present myself as at least equal in this scenario, or I could let it go, right? And
and
let
let
people
her
guess.
be the bad guy.
Right, yeah. And
Yeah.
just, if she wants to win that way, right? Sometimes I'll even go as far as is to like I had a hard time with watching my language at one point in my life a few years ago, right?
Oh, I know
And,
that
and
feeling. Yeah.
you know that because I mean that's just how I talk. That's how I talk since I was a baby. Like in
hmm
my household, we just cursed a lot. I mean that's just is what it is. And I was in the army, and I did worked in warehouses, right? I cursed a lot. That was just part of my. It was part of me, right?
Right.
And so I even got to a point where when I was working on it, um, I would curse, and I used to hate it when people would be like, "Hey, watch your mouth," like embarrassing me, right, in public, right, like
Yeah.
that. And so, as soon as I heard somebody say that, right, I kind of trained myself to always. You kind of have to train yourself to do it because it's instinctual, is when as soon as they go, "Hey, watch your mouth," you go, "Oh, thank you, I'm working on it, thank you so much for letting me know,"
Right.
and then just walk away humble. And sometimes they have to just eat their words, and feel bad, for how aggressive they were. Or you can even take it as far as like, oh, I endeavor to be better. I'm gonna keep working on it.
Right. I had
And
debated that. You just like you had said earlier in before I came on, you were talking about when people say things and you think of afterwards, you think of all the things like, oh, if I had said this, what would she have done? Oh, if I had retorted with that. And really, I just don't have the energy to do that anymore. I just thought about it and I just remembered, like, this falls right in line with all the scripture and the video I'd made. And my favorite part was from Exodus chapter 14, verse 14, where it told me, the word told me that the Lord will fight for me. It says the
That's
Lord will
right.
fight for you, and you have only to be silent. And
Vengeance belongs to the Lord, right?
exactly. And I let it bother me for maybe a half a minute getting into the truck, because I still had the opportunity to turn around and say something to her, you know.
Yeah.
But then I remembered that. I remember finding that scripture yesterday or the day before, right after my first encounter, and I had peace all of a sudden. I was just okay with it, just
That's good.
all right, well, she crazy, and just got in the truck.
Well,
And
and I'm sure people know that about her. Like people that know her know she's crazy. Like,
and that's
you know,
that's the interesting thing, that the cashier knew me and my husband, because we had been there a couple times before and talked to her, and she saw me before this whole encounter started, and she was like, "Oh, hey, I've got a book for you," and we were just like, "Oh my God, it's here," and she was totally sweet, this young lady.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm thinking in the back of my head, well, if I had acted the fool and just started an argument with some stranger in the store, the next time this poor girl sees me, she may not be so excited to see us anymore. Like,
Right.
that's the
Maybe even
woman
a
that
little scared, you know.
stirs up anger, and I didn't want to be known as that woman, and so I wanted to keep it friendly with the people and the staff that work there. And in the end of the day, I'm pretty proud of myself the way I handle it, because, like I
Yeah.
said, I didn't want to be that crazy woman that, like, oh my God, she's the one that was yelling at
Like,
some stranger last week.
like we're in this, we're in this, section of the world where really, you really couldn't be wrong either way. It's like whatever consequence you're willing to accept, right, is just kind of how far you can take that. Because I mean, we're at a point now where like people just aren't right for doing that. Like,
No, I know.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so no matter how you slice it, right? Like, or no matter how you reacted, it's just you're right. Like maybe that lady would have been a little scared next time she saw you because of how you reacted to that lady or whatever. Or, and you would have lost maybe that joyful interaction, and you might have
Right.
lost, you might have come off as crazy to a couple people, right? But really, I don't think too many. I mean, it just really depends on like the surroundings, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes, like, you know what I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
people can be stupid, man, when they get
When
involved with things, right? And it's in California it's especially liberal, right? And
Oh
I hate
yeah.
to say it, I hate to say liberal like a bad word, right? It is a bad word, right? But it's like I grew up
Well,
that way,
it
right? Like
depends on the person, though. It depends on the person, Stephen, because I've worked with people that are very liberal,
yeah.
and but it's not like we joke about it, I mean, there was a guy I worked with that used to put TV on at work, and he would watch CNN, and he knew I couldn't stand CNN. And
Right.
I told him, I was like, "Are you turning on the Cartoon News Network?" And he would laugh. But he didn't patronize me at work. We didn't argue about it. He just knew that he had his views, and he understood I had mine, and I didn't bring my political views out, to
Right.
challenge him. It's called professionalism. And
Yeah.
back in the day, I don't know if people remember this, but there were certain things you don't ask people about. That was their money, their faith, and their private lives. Like, you don't talk about who you're having
Yeah.
sex with. You don't talk about who you voted for. You don't ask somebody, well, how much money do you make an hour? And now it just seems like it's everybody's business. People have no respect for
Yeah.
your personal outlooks and views, and I think that's half the reason why we have so much clashing, so much
Well,
arguing, because
but,
people don't
but
know how to keep their mind
with
their own
what
business.
you just said is the template of things not to like talk about, right? Is like the basic conversation here. Like like who did you vote for? Who are you sleeping with? It's
Yeah.
like it's almost a rundown of what is talked about. Everything
I
is a
think
parade,
religion is one of
everything's
those
in the
things that
street.
you don't we used to not talk about either, is, you know,
Yeah.
but I don't
Well,
know.
that's
Yeah.
the thing. That's the thing, right? No, nobody is asking anybody that stuff, right? Like it really kind of insists upon itself, right? Like
Yeah.
honestly, like I don't remember ever offering that type of information, right? And maybe in high school, right? Like, okay, I'll talk about my private sexual life to my friends in high school, like on rare occasion, right? But like I
Yeah.
can't remember other than being a child, right? Ever offering that to anybody, right? Like I made myself vulnerable to like 4 or 5 people in my life and that was
Yep.
enough, right? But it's not so much
But
the
those would be
activity,
people you know, though, right? I mean,
right?
people that you're
Absolutely.
intimately friends with and that you can confide in, you know,
Absolutely.
and now here let's take it a step deeper. Okay? You ready?
Yeah.
I Now I've talked about this in a couple of my other videos, especially when it comes to the games that these globalists like to play with us, and they create these things. You have like these institutions. I won't name Black Lives Matter because I don't know if everybody believes in that, but I mean, you have the I'm sorry, the clot shot. Trying to
Yeah.
be careful for your sake there, brother.
Oh,
But
thank
you have the
you. I
clot
appreciate
shot
it. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
some people are passionate about, and others are passionate against it. And then you have the mask mandates that some people are passionate about and others are passionate against it. And then go back a little further, a few years. We had President Trump in office, and people became passionate about him and others became passionate against him. And then where what really happened to people throughout all that? We started having riots and
Oh, yeah.
shootings,
Yeah.
and they want to talk about divisiveness, that we're the ones causing divisiveness, but look at what happened today. You have somebody making a hateful comment to someone she has no clue about,
Yeah.
you know, over a 6 inch by 3 inch piece of cloth that I did not have over my face.
Right.
Really? And
Yeah.
and the sad thing is she's playing right into their agenda. This is the
Absolutely.
kind of civil war they want to create. The animosity, it starts with little annoying animosities toward each other. Then
It does.
it grows, and it becomes one army against another. And then
There
pretty soon you have a nation divided, and
and there's
it
always
will
gonna
fall.
be these people, right, that will defend the kidnapper, defend the captor, defend the government, right?
Hmm.
Over you when you're just trying to help, you're trying
Right.
to live your life in a free way that she can observe, right, and say, oh well, I guess it's, oh, they're not, you know they're okay. Maybe I could be okay like that and happy and breathing and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Maybe I don't have to be uncomfortable with this thing halfway on my face or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I think it's just like being part of the herd, right? Is more important than reality. And
Yeah.
so if the majority of the people believe, that there's invisible bugs that are around making you sick, or back in the day it used to be the cold, oh, don't catch a cold, wear your jacket, you're gonna get sick,
Right.
and
Yeah. Don't go outside
whatever.
with your hair wet.
Right. And and it's funny now, right? But these are things that are so deeply ingrained that people still say them to this day, right?
Yep.
Without thinking about it, you're gonna catch your death out there,
Yeah.
and
Right.
there's nothing that could make you sick in the cold, right? Like, I mean, you can get sick, like cold sickness, right? Like cold,
Yeah.
like
Well,
the weather, right? But like there's no bugs out there, or no, like this is what I think is happening, right? And I don't know, like sometimes I think that I have it figured out, and then it's the other way around, right? But I think
Okay.
that they have us convinced that like there's these invisible bugs out there that are making us sick, right? So everyone puts on a mask, and then they end up getting like bacteria built up in their mask, right? And they end up getting bacterial pneumonia from the mask itself, and then they put an intubator on these people and call it COVID.
Yeah,
And it seems simple, right? But is that what's happening? Like, because bacteria is real. Like you can see
it
that with
is.
yourself with a microscope.
Oh yeah. And
And so,
now
yeah,
go ahead, finish your thought.
no, mm-mm, I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say it brings to mind a show that I watched. There's a show like kind of like an interview show called London Real, and the host is Brian Rose. This guy actually ran for mayor out in London, I believe, a year ago. And so his whole thing was just having people on his show to talk. Whether he agreed with them or not didn't matter. He even says it. But I will fight for your right, your First Amendment right to say what you believe. And
Yeah,
on that show, he had a guy named David Icke, and I know that David Icke has been around for years. Whether you support him or not, he is right about one thing, and it's the test, the Clover test, right?
I've
That
never heard about that. Go ahead.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I saw it in the hospital when I worked there. It's when you look at a person's medical records and find out that they had been tested for COVID, it'll say either SAR, or PCR, which is the test that David Icke talked about in his interview. This interview got banned off of the internet, by the way, because it was too controversial at the time. And what he says about the test is totally truth, though. The test was never meant to uh, to what's the word, detect a
To
virus.
diagnose, to
It was
diagnose.
not meant to do that. All it is, and this is reality. In your body, you're going to have thousands and thousands of different kinds of bacteria, to include viruses,
Yep,
active viruses.
yep,
Now, how much you have in your body at what any given time at different levels is not something that can be pinpointed, because sometimes if it's such a small level in your bloodstream, your body can attack it and kill it before it makes you sick. And other times, if it overtakes your immune system too much, or if your immune system is weak and low, you get sick. But then your immune builds it back up, and then you build an immunity to it, correct?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The model I know. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So the problem with the PCR test was that it was only meant to just find any of these bacteria. It was meant to detect it and not identify it as you being infected by it, because if it's not making you sick at the time, your body could still be fighting it off. So these tests that they're putting on people, there's some people at the time were just not, they were not having any symptoms. So what did they call it? They started saying, oh, it's because you're asymptomatic.
Right.
Okay, so you're saying I'm not sick.
Right.
But it's
Yeah.
in your
Basically.
lungs regardless. But just because it's in your lungs doesn't mean you are contagious and infecting with it. It just means that your body has fought it off, or your body is fighting it off. And the thing about these tests that are, they're putting in us, is
Yeah.
that we came up with all those. The big controversy that came up was that the tests were producing false positives, which
Yeah.
was kind of ironic, because I mean, you can be tested positive with it, but it doesn't mean that it is infecting your body at the time. And
Well, see,
so,
in the model, okay, so in the model that I know, right, like I know what we're all told and stuff, but like in the model that I know is that with I think it was Dr. Kaufman and his in the
oh
Koch
yeah,
postulates, right? And
right,
so like the way that I understand it is that like viruses from outside of the body are not real. Like there is no infection coming from and I mean the bacteria, yes, but there's no virus coming from outside the body. So the virus itself will be something that your own body creates to fight off toxins or whatever, you
Right?
know. And so the virus will be in your body all the time. Like, of course,
Yep,
it's your body makes it, right? And so
absolutely right.
that's like one of the most common ones is a coronavirus is like one of the most common viruses that I mean, so it's in your body no matter what, probably all the time.
Oh
And if
yeah,
they're not, and if they can't show how much is in your body, or if they can't isolate it to show that it causes disease, meaning that like when you have cancer, your white blood cells will go up, but that doesn't mean that white blood cells cause cancer, right? It's just
exactly.
something that happens when you have cancer. And so, but they can take the cancer and isolate it and show that the cancer is causing the problem, right? But they
Right.
can't do this with any of these viruses, right? Well, they think they have with the HIV virus, which I mean, who knows what that? I mean, that's a whole nother subject, right? But
Right.
it's like you know. Now I'm wondering if anything that we're ever told was ever real, you know? And it's
Yeah.
like you know, where do we like? Because it. Let me explain this, right? And you've had kids, right? So it's like think about this: if there is an infectious disease,
Yeah.
most likely you're gonna it's gonna spread through the kids, or you'll catch it from the kids, or you
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh
Because they're
yeah. You
always
remember back in the day when your neighbor's kid got chicken pox? What'd your mom do? Go over
took me
there and
over their
play with him
house.
for a
Yep,
day. Go get it.
yeah, absolutely. And see, and it's like they're always touching their face, touching themselves. You know what I mean? Touching each
Yep.
other, right? And so you would think that the vaccine would be you know, from the young people forward, because they would be prioritized, right?
Right.
As getting the treatment first, because they're younger, they have more life to live, right? But
Right.
the way that they have this thing set up, right, where the younger people, they say, didn't need it. Now they're saying that it hasn't been approved yet for under 12, you know, or whatever. But to me, that's starting to sound a lot like age of accountability, right? Like
Yes.
biblically, right? So when did they start having bar mitzvahs, right? Like what, 13 or something like that? So
Yes. Yep.
um, if they approve the jab, right, for people that are, you know, 12, 13 years old, and not any younger than that, then it raises eyebrows with this mark of the beast theory, right? Because now we're
Yeah.
talking about a mark in the skin that's available worldwide for everybody, right? That is only
Yes.
for people at the age of accountability and higher.
Well, I always kind of wondered about the age thing because, and I read this and I've tried to find as much information about it. There was, when the World Health Organization first tested the polio vaccine,
Yeah,
didn't it take them about 7 years of trials? And they started in India, and there
yeah,
were actually about 138,000 children that ended up dying, and then they ended up, the World Health Organization said something about, well, it was a contamination through a third party pharmaceutical company as kind of a scapegoat. But if it takes them 7 years, which was supposed to, polio vaccine supposedly has been reported to be the one vaccine that took the shortest time to develop and perfect. I don't know about
mhm.
the perfect part, but what makes you think this jab is perfect after only, what has it been, 1 year, a year and a half?
It's terrifying. It's
Right.
absolutely terrifying. And
So
not
are
only
we the
that,
guinea pigs? Is my
well,
question.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. And not only are we the guinea pigs, right? But and I gotta be careful how I preface this,
I
man.
know. That's why I started talking a little slower. Like, should I be
So,
careful here, Stephen? Sorry.
right. So when we're talking about pink unicorns, right? If
Right,
something is made to be nefarious in the first place, then that's just what it is, right?
right.
So if it is the best possible scenario, are we guinea pigs? Yes.
Yeah,
The
that's
worst possible scenario is it was never meant to be for any kind of beneficial purpose at all.
No,
And
I know.
pink
Yeah.
pink unicorn should never be ingested,
And I'll
in the
just say
first place.
this, that there's a word that the globalists have for us, people in the populace in general. It's called goyim. And
Yeah,
the Hebrew meaning of that word back in the day was that those were the slaves, the cattle.
pigs,
And
cattle,
and
yeah,
I've, yep,
cattle,
and
cattle.
that's why they see us as sheep, as cattle. We are their sheeple, you know.
Yeah.
And some people don't like the term, but I mean, that doesn't change the fact that that's how they see us and that's what they use us for. Boy, this conversation is going really well about holding our tongue, isn't it?
Right. Well, I mean, look, here's the thing, right? We all know the truth about things, right? Like
Yeah.
there's things that are like it's all going on in our heads, right? How is anybody new ever going to know about it, right? It is a risk.
Mm-hmm.
It is a risk, right? There's a few things that I are concerning on here, right? But I mean, the reality is, right, is
Well,
at some point you got to put out some information. You save the channel, but save it for what? Like you
right.
save it to maybe make an impact. It's hard, right? Because um, and I do have a backup channel, right? And there is always going to be a place we can go safe. Like I can always go live from there. We can, kind of like
Right.
fellowship and all that. But man, it would just really be nice, right? If the world was the way it's supposed to be, and everyone really could develop their own platform, and
And
but
say what they educate others and share
right.
and
I,
connect.
I don't even think my channel is supposed to get this big. I sometimes I wonder like how it even happened, because I it's very weird, man, to me. Because some channels, right, like big channels that are just obviously pushed, they could say whatever they want. They could say, "Go get this thing right now," and that's not advice, right? But when
Right.
you say, like, "Oh, well, think about everything before you do it and be careful and consult more than one person," blah blah blah, that's advice now. And
Right.
so it breaks community guidelines. Now, the one cool part is I don't take any money. So I'm not in
Yeah.
partnership with YouTube as far as financially, right?
Don't,
So
yeah, don't buy into their merchandising, brother.
or any of it, right?
Hmm.
Because then I don't work for them, right? Like, because if I use their platform to make money, then they're my business partner, right? Now,
Yeah.
if I
Yep.
don't use their platform to make money, if it's just a public if it's a public social media platform for me to like talk to my friends, then I have the Constitution of the United States behind me, because that's where I am, right? And so I
Right.
have some freedom of speech, but that doesn't make it free completely, because
Yep.
they don't
There's
they don't
still
con-
restraints.
right, because here's the thing, right? This should be looked at as like a public park. I'm allowed to come here, you're allowed to come here, we're all allowed to come here. But what
Yep.
they do is they, instead of saying this is a public place and we're liable for our own stuff, right? They say no, we're a media company, right? And
And
we
we
control
control what you say.
right. But
Yeah.
in the meantime, they lose out on every bit of profit they could make, when they could make tons of money with this platform, right? And
Yeah.
instead they're losing money. This is the biggest. This is the biggest social media network, even bigger than Facebook, right? Is
Right.
YouTube, and it loses money.
It makes me question if they're
Yeah,
getting money
yeah.
from, who are they getting money from with the directive to do this, though? I mean,
Somebody,
somebody's got
somebody.
to be paying them even more money and outbidding us on what they
Well,
could make off of the populace to shut us up.
Well,
You,
a few theories, right? One
right.
is someone told me that the government controls Google, but I really think that Google is the government, right?
Yeah.
And or number two, right, which is Google works for the occultists, man. It's
Oh,
straight the
absolutely.
state. Satan is the boss, right? And that there is a big red dude running around, and and he does run things, and that is real.
Yeah.
And
This
so,
we got to remember this world still belongs to Satan.
right,
And
and he
everything in it
doesn't.
that goes anywhere or becomes popular or becomes rich is because of him.
Yeah,
And only he can bless them for it, by
un,
selling their
un,
souls to it,
unfortunately, yeah. I mean,
and let them
it,
have it.
I was even surprised to know, right, that even I mean, even very, very small platforms, right?
Yeah.
Um, you can't get certain size platforms without being sold out to it a little bit, right? Like we're at
Yeah.
a point now where like I don't think that before, if there was a before technology, if it really did start when they say it did, right? And it wasn't just around all the time and they just keep resetting it, who knows,
Yeah.
right? But if it all started the way they said, then I'm pretty sure that nobody could write a book that wasn't one of them. That,
Oh yeah.
nobody, nobody could have
Nobody can
anything
get
if they're
that
not one of them.
far.
Yeah, because you're
Yeah.
never gonna see okay, number one, you're never gonna see like a celebrity on their own social media sick on day 3 of COVID, like looking like hell, right?
Yes.
You're never gonna see real life, right? Ever, right? Number two, they're never gonna have a dissenting opinion, and when they do, it's always somebody that's like not respected for their intelligence, right? It's always some goofball or athlete
Well,
or
it's
artist
like
or
you
whatever.
yeah, it's like you had mentioned before. It's like they put someone out there to make the rest of us look bad, and
Right.
he's a complete lunatic, and saying stuff that aren't exactly aligning with what we as Christians or we as conservatives or whatever you call yourself. It's kind of, here's an example. My husband and I used to be avid Alex Jones fans. I
Yeah,
mean, like, he was the
sure.
number one warrior for anti-globalism, and the guy was, and then the question came along, and somebody I think actually called in on his show and asked him this, is like, if you're really so anti-globalist, how are you able to still be on a public platform? How are you still able to maintain this? And his answer is what made us uneasy. Is it was a hem hawing of, well, I've got lawyers, and okay, moving on.
Uh,
And
yeah.
that's one of the things that just kind of makes us wonder, like, if you're actually able to get out there and be popular enough to have a say to the
Yeah.
to the masses, what are you selling behind the scenes to be able to maintain that popularity? Because, if you really were a threat to the government or to the globalists or to the elitists or whoever is out there, the boogeyman, then they would shut you down. They've been doing it for centuries. They have the means to do it, and they can do it in a heartbeat. What's to
Yes.
stop them?
They can absolutely do it in art. I've seen them take channels and just with no strikes or anything and shut them off.
They don't even, there's nothing you can really do if they strike your channel and you
What
really
what
didn't do anything.
yeah, what can you do? You can
Yeah.
send in your appeal, right? That takes 10 days, right? And
Yeah.
then you can't stream for 10 days anyway, right? There's so
You're
you
in the
you
timeout corner.
Yeah, you're gaining steam. People are hearing what you're saying. Like you finally said something that touched a nerve, right? And you're
Yeah.
getting there, and they put you on break, right? That's the best
Right.
thing that they could do is to cool off the crowd, right? So you got to
Well,
keep your crowd small. You got to keep I mean, stay the right size and keep the main thing, which is Jesus Christ is the only way out of here. His sacrifice and grace, right? Is
amen.
that's what it's about, right? So if I start getting my ego in it, where okay, well, I want to expose this real big thing or be able to push it further than anybody else, that's my ego speaking, right? I
Yes.
gotta affect what I can affect, right? And I have to stay the size that I am, right? I'm
Yeah.
not any more important than I am, right? And so like it's hard to explain, but it's easy to have an inner knowing when you're praying a lot, right? To the feel of what really who and where you are, and just
No,
how
no,
big
it
you
makes
are. You know?
makes perfect sense. I mean, as long as you're out there long enough to just to save the one is better than not being able to save any. So
I I
it,
just I just feel so grateful, Shannon, that God would use me for anything, right?
exactly,
Like like I
exactly. And
mean
it
I
doesn't have
mean
to be huge, Stephen. It doesn't have to be,
yeah,
Alex Jones big. It just has to be Stephen, and
yeah,
that's enough. And to round this all back to holding our tongue
yeah.
and maintaining peace between each other. The one verse that I've been looking at here, and I just want to say it real quick, is out of Titus, chapter 3, verse 2, and it says to speak evil of no one and to avoid quarreling, to be gentle, and to show perfect courtesy toward all. I think, no matter how small or big you are, if we can maintain that, it'll gain its own popularity that way. Rather than all this that we're talking about, which is stuff that all stirs anger and just the war between people that believe and don't believe. We're not going to win
Yeah.
anybody over by making angry remarks at each other. It
No,
At no
no.
point has, in any way, has somebody gone into a store and said thanks for wearing a mask. Has what point would I stand there and be like, oh my God, this woman's right, where's my mask? It's
Right.
just, there's
She changed
no
my life.
there's no there's no fruitful point to that. So
No,
if we
it's
can
not.
maintain something fruitful and something kind, the directions are right here in the
Well,
Word of God. It's our user's
y-
guide.
and the sad part about that is she probably saw that somewhere else, and
Yeah,
is just repeating it.
like a
And it's
sheep,
just right. Yeah,
like
just
a
like
good sheep.
I mean, we'll round out in a second here, but like the last point I want to make is that like most of the time, right, that I got involved with conversations with people, mostly like in the waiting room at the VA, waiting for my appointments and stuff. I,
Oh
I
yeah,
would notice I would notice that like the people in there were saying the stuff that I just heard on the news, right? and
yeah,
and playing it off like it's their own idea or something,
yeah,
and they're talking about it, really repeating their favorite person that they like, and
yeah,
innocent enough, right? That's just how people act, right? And
yeah.
but it's so weird, like when you
That's
finally
society
realize
now.
with yeah, people
That's
just want to, like if LeBron James is wearing these clothes, I gotta wear them too. If
right.
if he's drinking Gatorade, I gotta drink Gatorade. If the news guy's saying this and I like that news guy, I'm gonna say what he said. You
Yeah.
know,
I'm gonna dye my
and
hair pink because pink has pink hair.
that,
It's okay.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
it's a bunch of people that mimic everything,
Well,
and
when taking away our individualism is part
yeah,
of the scheme. It's,
taking away our spirit.
idolatry. Isn't it idolatry?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, yes. I
It's
mean, anything you put before God, right, is it's just
exactly.
it's just like it's just so hard to realize that it just has become normal behavior, right?
Yeah.
To be really antichrist,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
normal everyday rewarded behavior. To have more than you need while someone else has not enough is rewarded in this world. And
That's true.
anyway,
That's
so
true, brother. No, you're
it,
good
it's
talk.
time it's time to hit the old dusty trail. And so thank you for coming on, Shannon. It's always a pleasure. And thank you everybody for coming. Praise Jesus for his sacrifice and his grace, and all glory to God. He deserves it. And pray
Amen.
for the children. And I will see you guys tomorrow at 7 a.m. California
Thank,
time.
thank you, Stephen.
All right. Thank you, Shannon.